Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Matt from the Forest Focus podcast. This is the View of the Opposition preview, which podcast related is exclusive to Cottage Talk Patreon members. However, you can watch this on YouTube, so please do subscribe on YouTube. But if you want to listen to the podcast, you're going to have to become a Cottage Talk Patreon paid member. All right, Matt, let's get into this. First of all, thank you for joining me tonight to talk about this match. We are recording this on a Wednesday, but I look forward to this match on Saturday. How about you?
I do look forward to it. Good to be with you, Ross. Yeah, I look forward to it. We've just played respectively in the FA Cup, and it was a tough game for both of us, especially us scraping past Exeter. So it's good to be back to the Premier League, which obviously we're flying in. You're having a really good season as well. You beat us at our place, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yep.
So yeah, looking forward to it a lot, actually.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's get to it. I want to get your thoughts on the season so far. We'll talk about the match early in the season between our clubs, but I just want to get just an overall view. And let's start here. Did you see this coming? I didn't see you being this dominant, and I've been very impressed with Nottingham Forest throughout the season. We've talked about your club. We're talking about we should be emulating what Nottingham Forest are doing because what you're doing has been working really well. My co-host Tony Gold has talked about how rock solid your defense is and how you're scoring goals up front. And when you have that combination, you're going to win a lot of matches, Matt. And that's actually the difference between Fulham and Nottingham Forest. We're drawing all these matches and you're winning them because you only have one less loss than us. It really comes down to winning matches.
Yeah, I think I certainly didn't see this coming. I don't think any Forest fan could have said they would. Not to this degree. I thought we'd be all right. I thought we'd be 12th to 14th, something where, ironically, Man United, Spurs, and West Ham are now. It shows the tables evolved, which is a kind of a different topic. But yeah, like you say, we signed Milenkovic in the summer, and he's made a world of difference. We've got a really solid back four, two fullbacks who we were saying when you came on our show, Williams and Oleraina, who've been really good for us, probably better than they were for you. They've been great. Matt Sells in goal has arguably been the best goalie in the Premier League, which I didn't see coming either. So that's a solid foundation. Then it's kind of it sounds a bit of a simplistic formula, but fast, good wingers crossing the ball for a good striker and a good number 10 who can do both sides of the game with and without the ball in Gibbs White, who's in the England squad now. And just that set formula of play. And the other big thing that we've done, which you haven't done from talking to you before, was we've beaten the teams at the bottom. We've barely dropped a point against the bottom half teams, and that's probably the turning the wins into the draws that puts that 11 points between us, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I think that has been the difference. And what's interesting about this, like I said, I told you on your show that I watched the Brighton Hove Albion match, and I was very impressed with your defense because Fulham struggled at Craven Cottage, even though we beat Brighton Hove Albion because they controlled the play and we really had a hard time dealing with them. I watched your match, and I know it's 7-0, and that is going to overshadow what you did defensively, Matt. But what I watched was just a rock solid defense, and Brighton Hove Albion huffed and puffed, but really, you were comfortable throughout that match, and that's what was impressive for me.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Brighton had a few chances, but when they hit the bar, but Sells made a great save. You need your goalie to step up when he did, and it was probably like the perfect example of what we're about. I think we had 38% possession in the game, and we scored 7 goals. We could have scored 10, and we didn't. I think all the chances we created were either big chances or very good finishes. Like Chris Wood scored a really good header, and his movement's great, and he's a proper old school number 9 who's on fire, and it all came together. But we've played like that in a lot of games this season and won them 2-0, 2-1. Quite a lot of 1-0s. I think we've had 10 clean sheets, but that probably encapsulated the best version of what we are and what we want to be.
Okay, very good there, Matt. All right, so now let's look back at the match earlier this season, and Fulham go to the City Ground and pull off, I guess we could say right now, an upset because obviously of the season that you're having now. I do want to mention that Morgan Gibbs White was out for this match, and you were dealing with some injuries. But what surprised me and the commentary that I heard on your show and other shows was the decisions made by the manager not to play the wingers from the get go. And I think that Nuno was really playing against Marco. It was like a chess match, and he was trying to outduel him, outthink him. And I think maybe that was a little bit of an issue for your side. Fulham get the victory, but it was a difficult match for both sides. I want to get your view of it.
Yeah, it was when we lost 5-0 to Bournemouth. So obviously that's our worst performance of the season. But second to that, I would say was Fulham. And Nuno's been amazing. But if he's got any game wrong, it was this one. We played a really weird. It was sort of 4-2-2-2. We didn't
Yeah,
really play with wingers. Taiwo, Awoniyi, and Chris Wood started. It didn't really work. I think obviously there was a tactical plan. I don't know what it was because I think your wing play, your wide players are really good. Your fullbacks are really good. So I don't really know what the thinking was. We put up a pretty horrible performance. It probably could have been a 0-0. You got a penalty that was
yeah,
slightly contested, I guess. I think it was the one where Murillo stood on someone's toes. I can't really.
Pereira.
Um, yeah, yeah. It was one of those games where it looked like two well organized strong defensive units, but we didn't show up. I mean, the question on the screen says, "What can we learn from the match?" I don't think we can learn a lot really because of Nuno's completely random team selection that was never repeated again. So I don't think it's going to be a huge factor because we'll play a completely different formation and line up going into it. To be honest.
I agree with you that I don't know how much we can learn because I think both teams are going to be different. I mentioned to you that Fulham are a different side now since that match. Sanderberga has become a major part of how Fulham are playing right now with Lukic. So I think things are going to be different. I think you're going to be different. So I don't know how much we can learn. I agree with you on that. Okay, Matt. Let's now get your thoughts on Fulham. Now, like I said, beyond the match, what are your thoughts about their season?
I think they're one of those teams, like I mentioned earlier, that there's probably four of us that are upsetting the apple cart a bit, aren't they? In terms of, or
Yeah,
five if you throw Brighton in. Us,
Bournemouth.
yourself, Bournemouth, and Brentford and Brighton to an extent. Brentford have slid away a bit, but the big traditional powerhouses aren't having it their own way anymore. And I think you've seen that the middling teams in the table can beat anyone. And I throw Fulham into that. They drew
Yep.
at Anfield. I think they beat Chelsea, didn't they? And
Yep.
results like that. So I look at your team. Silva's a really good coach, a really good manager. I think Marinakis would love to have him as our manager one day. I think I've said that before.
Yeah.
He had him at Olympiacos. So yeah, you've got really good players as well. I look at like Anderson and Bassi are a good balanced pairing. Anderson can really play. Bassi tries to play maybe a bit too much, but I think he's a good defender. Anthony Robinson's got an extraordinary amount of assists this season, and he looks like he's come up another gear. Lukic and Berger, you mentioned, seem to have covered Polinia's absence. Iwobi looks like he's having a really good season. Smith Rowe's an interesting signing who doesn't seem like he's quite worked yet, but I think he will. And then you've got two good, not like great strikers, and
Right.
that's not meant to be disrespectful, but
No.
Jimenez, I'm really pleased that Jimenez is doing well and having a good season. Muniz, like Smith Rowe, started the season in my fancy team, so I thought you had those great fixtures and he'll do well, and he didn't fire, but he seems like he's doing better off the bench. I like that Jimenez seems to look pretty pissed off every time he gets hooked. So there's some kind of competition between them, which is a good thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you've got a really good balanced team. I don't think there's any like superstars in there that I can think of,
No.
but there's lots of really good players. Like I was thinking earlier, if we lose Olaraina, because his contract's up in a year,
Right.
I'd love it, and we're in the Champions League. I'd love to sign Anthony Robinson, but he's probably going to cost like 40 million quid because he's a
Uh,
good, strong
go
Premier.
up.
Well,
Go up.
okay, yeah, but he's a really good Premier League left back, and you've got a
Yeah.
whole clutch of players that would just get into lots of Premier League teams without being
Yeah.
superstars. So yeah, I'm a fan certainly.
Well, see, that's kind of what I like, Matt. I like a team that is built around being a team rather than, say, like a star player. And
Mm.
in some ways, I think Fulham have missed Mitrovic. Mitrovic was a star player, that prolific striker, but I do appreciate the way Fulham are built. It's built around the sum of the parts, not around one player. I could argue that maybe someday it will be built around Smith Rowe because I think that's Marco's grand plan. But for me, it really is about good quality players, and no one really is, like you said, that star. But that's okay by me. I enjoy watching this team play together. They seem to enjoy playing with each other, which makes it even better for us supporters. So that's going to lead me to ask you about on Saturday, what Fulham players concern you the most?
Uh, I think Robinson and Iwobi seems like to be a really good threat down that side. If Iwobi's going to play down that side, it's interesting that we've got Oleraina, who's been fantastic. Anthony Langer will work back and do a really good job. And then if we're playing three at the back, probably Murato played on that side against Brighton, so he'll get out to help with Robinson. So I think a lot of threats going to come from there.
Okay.
You were saying you think Traore is going to start. He's
Yes.
someone who could drop a 3 out of 10 performance or a 10 out of 10 performance when he clicks, and when he's like, if he can find his end product with his crossing, then he can have a really good game. And probably Smith Rowe, if he takes up interesting positions, doesn't he? He's obviously very talented. So if he fires, and he's a good player. I think probably that left-hand side, if Robinson and Iwobi click and give our players problems, they're the two I'd be looking at. Jimenez is a really good player, but I would back Milenkovic and Murillo and Morato to deal with him over 90 minutes. So it would be Robinson and Iwobi for me. With Traore, you kind of have one eye on him and think, oh, please don't let this be the game where it happens.
Listen, I agree with you. As a Fulham supporter, I can tell you the strength of Fulham is on that left-hand side, and that's where they make all of their hay, as we would say over here. So for me, I totally get that. So very good points by you for mentioning those players. So now let's go to the coaching battle. So the reason why I want to bring this up is because I mentioned at the beginning of the show about Nuno, and I thought Nuno really just was hell bent on stopping Fulham from playing, which I do understand, but you're at home, and I was kind of surprised by him being more concerned about Fulham than playing his way that he wants to play, because it sounds like he changed it up to stop Fulham. What are your thoughts about these managers? Do you think that Nuno will have the right game plan? We've already talked about that you believe that he will go with three at the back, and I've told you that that's the right decision. What are your thoughts about the coaching battle?
Yeah, I think Nuno's got a reputation of being quite rigid. I don't think he is. I saw a stat the other day. We've changed formation and tactics most within matches, so he is flexible, and we saw that at the City ground where it backfired. But I think in this one, he's settled on a clear plan. I would say probably over the last 2 months or so, you can kind of know what's going to happen with our team. It's either going to be a 4-2-3-1 or more recently a back three. And then I think it'll be a back three in this one because we didn't play any of the frontline defenders against Exeter. They were all rested. And obviously we beat Brighton 7-0. So it makes sense to do that. So yeah, it's an interesting battle. They're two good Portuguese coaches, but I think Nuno's going to play it in a way that we know what we can do to teams on the counter attack.
Yep.
And he's a little more, let's see how we can hurt you more than let's worry about your threat, which I think is demonstrative of trust in players. It was quite early in the season when you beat us. I mean, we'd finished 17th the season before, so he was still learning about players. And now he trusts in everyone. Now he knows what Elliot Anderson is and how he combines with Gibbs White, who you referenced, didn't play in the previous match. So our team kind of slightly more picks itself in terms of 9 of the 11, and then the other 2 are kind of around formations as much as anything.
Okay, excellent stuff. All right, let's go to keys to victory for Nottingham Forest. For you to get all 3 points at Craven Cottage, what do you need to do here?
Create counter-attacks, which sounds like it's going to be difficult because you were saying, and I agree, that there's probably 2 teams who are more comfortable without the ball. So
yeah.
If we can forge counterattacks and catch you high up the pitch, we've scored the same goal so many times. We win it. Anderson gives it to Gibbs White. Gibbs White gives it to someone, probably Elanga, who gives it to Chris Wood, and he scores. And I think we've scored that goal 7 or 8 times. And if we can do that, then I think that's a big thing. It's a cliche, isn't it? But so many Premier League games now come down to the central midfielders,
Yeah.
and ours are probably going to be either Danilo, who's just come back from injury but is a very good player, and Anderson, with Gibbs White playing sort of as a 10 or a bit wider. So sort of a 2 with Gibbs White in support, or just Gibbs White and Anderson if Callum Hudson-Odoi is back from injury. But I think Gibbs White and Anderson are probably our most important players in this one. If they can win that battle and forge counter-attacks and give us just an element of control, because you can control the game without the ball.
Yep.
And when we get it in good areas, can we hurt you? Because I would back us to soak up Fulham and any team in the Premier League. I'm not just saying this. I would back us to defend for back to the wall and then hit teams on the break. So can Fulham break us down? I guess is your one, and can we create counters? Is our one.
I totally agree with that. After watching, like I said, that Brighton Hove Albion match, I'm like, okay, this is really going to be difficult for Fulham the way that they're playing, because they're going to have to break you down, and you are very solid defensively. So I totally agree with that, Matt. And that's going to lead to talk about your starting 11. You believe that you will go with a back 3. So give me your starting 11.
Well, Matt Sells in goal, no doubt about that. Carlos Miguel went off with an injury in the last game anyway, but Sells has been great. The back 3 of Morato, who's come in and done really well, signed from Benfica. Milenkovic, also brilliant. And then Murillo, who's going to be a superstar. So that's a solid foundation. Olorina, right wing back, Nico Williams, left wing back, which is interesting because they probably both want to play right side. But Williams, as the junior one, has been pushed out to the left but done really well. And then a midfield of it all depends if Callum Hudson-Odoi is fit. He's been out the last 2 games, but he was pictured in training in Dubai. So if Callum Hudson-Odoi is fit, I think it'd be Gibbs White and Anderson in central midfield, and then Elanga and Hudson-Odoi in support of Chris Wood. If Hudson-Odoi is out, then I think Gibbs White will play a bit higher, and Danilo would come into the team. So that's how I see it being.
Okay, let's just say Callum Hudson-Odoi is not available. How much of a loss is that?
Yeah, it's a really big loss because he is one of the only players that you can give the ball to, and you back him not to lose it. He'll get you up the pitch. He can carry it 30, 40 yards as an out ball. So yeah, he is a big loss. He occupies 2 defenders because you know what he's going to do. He's going to try and curl one in the top corner. So you probably need to double up on him. So he is a big loss, but we have done okay without him. Obviously, we beat Brighton without him. So we can win without him. Danilo is a different kind of central midfielder to some of the other ones we have. He'll put his foot on the ball. He'll be positive. He'll pass forwards. Ibrahim Sangare could play instead of Danilo, but he's only just coming back from injury as well. He played really well in the FA Cup last night as we record this on Tuesday. So he's an option. But Hudson-Odoi and Elanga are such a good double act. They're like a really good duo of wingers, slightly different profile. Elanga's kind of more pacey, more direct. Hudson-Odoi's got more guile. So losing him would be a big loss because he can help pin back Castagna on the right hand side.
Okay, excellent. All right, Matt. Before we go, I do have to ask you for a prediction. Give me a prediction for the match.
They're always pretty tight, aren't they? I don't think we beat you at home last season and played unbelievably well. That was a bit of an outlier, I think. Otherwise, I think it's going to be really tight. I don't think a draw is the worst result. The only thing for us is that after this, we play Newcastle, Arsenal, and Man City in consecutive games. Wow. So you kind of look at it and think, actually, we could really do with winning this one. So I don't think a draw is a bad result. I think I would back Forest only because, I watched that Man United game and Man United slowed it down, made it miserable, made it an awful game, and we can do that, and we're quite good at that. But I think we're obviously better than Man United on the counter attack. So
much better.
So I would go for a really narrow Forest win, but
Okay.
equally, I wouldn't be surprised if we lost the game. I wouldn't be at all surprised.
Okay. I can see that. Like I said, I think all three situations are in play here because I think it's going to be tight. I agree with you. Just like the first match, I think it's going to be tight. I think these teams actually, we talked about this the first time we did a podcast together, that they kind of mirror each other. They don't play exactly the same way, but there are a lot of similarities. And the fact that you had even said that your owner might want Silva someday kind of tells me another similarity between the two teams. So I can definitely see that. And like I said, it's been a tremendous season for Nottingham Forest. And regardless of what happens in this match, we'll put this aside. I wish you the best of luck the rest of the season, Matt. And before I let you go, tell everyone how that they can find your podcast, which is excellent.
Oh, thank you. We're on YouTube. We're on all audio platforms. Just search Forest Focus. Specifically for this game, we do a post-match show live afterwards. You could check out. That's more immediate reaction. And then on a Monday, we kind of break it down in more detail. With we always have an ex-player on, or a broadcaster, a commentator, and then a couple of fans as well, where we look at the game in more details. And we try and give respect to the opposition. We did it last night when Exeter played really well against us, and Bournemouth took us to the cleaners. Of Brighton, we didn't give any respect to, because I don't know what the manager was thinking. He played one in midfield against us. It was nuts. But check that out if you're interested.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. He is Matt from Forest Focus. I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you, as always, for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.